Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Everlasting Veteran Podcast. We are in the Everlasting Veteran Studio, coming to you live with Chris Connelly, a Marine Corps veteran and small business owner. We are starting to record again the Everlasting Veteran Podcast. I'm excited. Chris, thank you for coming on the show. How's everything going?
Thanks for having me here. Things are pretty well. Things are pretty well as a small business. Things are stressful, as always, but we're chugging along.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about your military service in the Marine Corps for 7 years.
Did 7 years in the Marine Corps. Went in right before 9/11. Went in 2000. So I was already in about a year and change when 9/11 happened, and that, as you know, that changed a whole lot of things.
Right.
So did a few tours in Iraq. My last one is the one that put me out. Got hurt over there, got medevaced, and the whole nine.
Yeah.
And they told me, thanks, but no thanks.
Man, I tell you, man, a lot of times as veterans, we go through a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't understand, and we don't talk about it enough, right? We don't talk about it enough. Some of it is, I think sometimes it comes down to judgment, embarrassment, not knowing how to navigate it ourselves, right? Readjusting, transitioning, this new life, the new us.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. And, kind of walk me through that. How was that like for you, transitioning this new life? The Marine Corps pretty much said, all right, bye.
Yeah. That was pretty much it. That was pretty much it. I got home from Iraq. Well, I got home from Germany.
Yeah.
Spent some time in the hospital there in Germany. Got home, and my daughter was born. So, blessing and a curse. I got home to see my daughter being born. She was born early, so that worked. But in that time, I was transitioning. I was going through the whole med board process, and one day they had my orders ready, and they told me to come pick them up, and they said, "Here's your DD-214."
Now they do that. They get you back stateside, or they got you back stateside?
They got me back stateside.
All right. Because I was stationed in Germany with 2nd Cavalry Regiment. I have a similar story of the military saying, "See you later." It was the economic reasons, involuntary separation period, when they decided to cut spending.
Oh yeah.
And so I had orders in hand to go 101st Airborne. I had a year and a half left on my contract. They said, well, you got to reenlist for at least 3 years, or you run the risk of, Big Army saying, we're going to change your ETS date, your get out date, by 365 days without warning.
Ooh. Oh, that's right.
And I'm like, I got a year and 6 months. I just reenlisted downrange in Afghanistan, right? I'm like, I haven't been back stateside in like 3.5 years. Right. Maybe for like 2 weeks here and there. Right.
Yeah. You took advantage of that tax-free reenlistment.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm gonna go back stateside. They had airborne, air assault school in the orders. I knew they were deploying again, because they were in the rotation before us.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm just going to finish out the contract when I get back stateside. I'll think about it then. Right. A year and 3 months to the day, my orders disappear. ETS orders come out. And 3 months to figure it out from Germany.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, thanks.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
Yeah. And I'm like, how many people did that happen to? Right.
Yeah.
And we're wondering why the transition's been so hard. Right. The TAP program hadn't been touched because we're so elbow deep in a war, right? Yep. So nobody was transitioning really.
There was no transition.
People that were getting out, maybe they were doing, their first contract, getting out, or they did multiple, or they got, med boarded, or, something where there was some type of like incident or decision on their own part that, they're just getting out.
Well, I'll tell you about my transition there. as you know, you get out and it's like, okay, what now? Do I really want to deal with these civilians? And I didn't. So I found a way that I could kind of keep doing the same thing,
Right.
but not. So I got out in 2007. Summer of 2008, I was in Afghanistan.
Wait, say that again.
I got out in 2007.
Yeah.
Summer of 2008, I was
Yeah.
in Afghanistan.
Oh, private contract.
Yeah.
Oh, what were you doing there?
I was doing threat assessments. So I started out doing working on a surveillance project.
Okay.
So all the raid tower, like the camera systems, I started out working on all those. Then I transitioned into threat assessments.
Yep.
So I'd run around the country with the camera and a GPS, and
you part of the group with like the blimps and cameras that started popping up and all that stuff.
That was us.
Yeah, there was a couple of Air Force guys I was talking to. They transitioned out and got that job. That was pretty decent money.
Yeah, it was good money.
Yeah, it was good money. It's crazy to me that the military goes, see you later, but you can get a job making more money.
Yeah,
a lot more money, right?
So,
and that's tax free too.
It's tax free. Oh well, I think it was at the
first
time,
6 months,
like
or
the first 95,000 or something.
Yeah,
was tax free.
Yeah,
but funny you should say that. There was someone out there. She was in the Air Force and she was getting ready to get out, and she didn't know, what the next chapter was going to be. She had come to our little area a lot, and we were all pretty good friends with her. Well, her master sergeant told her she might as well re-enlist because she's never, as a female, she's never going to make any money.
Wow.
Yeah. So she came over to us, and we were like, "Oh, we'll hire you."
So she got out.
So she got out.
Yeah.
Turned around a month later, she was back in Afghanistan, and went into his office like, "Hey,
nice to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Guess what I'm doing now?
Yeah.
Not making any money, huh?
Can't tell me what to do."
So.
Yeah, it's crazy. I have a couple friends that were part of the Pony Express. They wrote the book over here, Postcards to Hell, and the story. They actually stopped at Fob Hadrian, where I was at in Afghanistan, and then they also stopped at Frontenac and the lower part of, we'll just call it the lower 49. But they're delivering the mail through Afghanistan, private contractors, right? Their stories is phenomenal, and a lot of them are prior service, Marines, Navy. They needed a corpsman. That's where Doc came in. Alan Chasen, great guy. Ed Ford and Alan wrote the book. It's a memoir of like their journey with their team, and it was essentially, we talk about operators, we talk about team members. I've had team members on here before, where that's all you have there, right? So here are these private contractors, zero military support, right? No birds in the sky. Once in a blue moon, they may have, quick reaction force on standby.
Remember those days.
Or at least close enough where like they can, make a phone call with their, sat phone. They had radios for each other, but yeah, wild west, man.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you, me and a buddy of mine, my buddy Chad, he was Navy.
Yeah.
We were out there at one point, and we had a security detail because wherever we were was just over the top. Like, somebody's going outside the wire with you. Like, I know you guys do this by yourselves all the time, but nope, this time there's these two soldiers. So we're walking through this field, and Chad says, "Hey Chris, this field has been demined, right?"
I've been
and we go, and all four of us are like, ha! Then looking down at our footsteps and retracing our footsteps to get out of the field, so
following that moon dust,
following the moon dust. Yeah. So yeah, stuff like that. I got stories for days over Afghanistan. Afghanistan was I'll tell you, it was one of the funnest times of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's odd to say that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, and a lot of people feel that way. A lot of veterans feel that way, Iraq or Afghanistan. And I think a lot of times what happens is multiple deployments happen because that becomes your comfort,
That's it.
right?
That's it right there.
The basics of it, right? Doing your job, eating, sleeping, working out.
That's it.
Like that's it. You don't have, especially in the earlier times of Iraq, Afghanistan. I'd say Afghanistan. I was OEF, and then Operation New Dawn happened. I wasn't part of that, which is like hearts and minds. Trying to rebuild and everything else. So the dynamics changed. Everything changed a little bit. But in those times where like you're building HESCOs, you're pulling security, you're setting up comms, for the first time your unit getting there.
It's just a simple time.
It's just a simple time. You have a task, you complete it, you get some chow, you go work out, you get some sleep, you hit your shift, rinse and repeat.
That's exactly
for a year. Some people did 6 months, some people did 9 months, some people did a year, and it's very simpler times, where you appreciate when you come back, you especially appreciate all the extras, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's almost it's a culture shock.
Well, coming back,
yeah,
absolutely.
Right. Because you get so used to the disconnected communication. You get so used to the simpler like lifestyle.
It's an overload almost.
Yeah.
With just input, just
the amount of people, right? Crowds.
Yep.
I remember I came back and I don't know why I said yes. I went to a show with my now wife. So this was 12 years ago, right? Hard to think that was that long ago. So I get back from Afghanistan 2011. I get out in 2012. I go to a show at Mohegan Sun, full arena, right? And I go, like,
you did that on purpose.
15 minutes into it, and I go, I can't be here right now.
I gotta get out of here.
Like the walls are going like this, like I'm starting to like get that black tunnel vision, right?
Yeah.
And the sensory overload.
Oh yeah.
Right. The because everybody around you doesn't know what's going on up here, right? So you're sitting there and you're like, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? And I mean, even to this day, there's times, and my wife knows, like, you go to a restaurant, go to Costco, go wherever. I have a time limit, right? And I know my time limit, right? Generally speaking, when I go, I'll wait right here, go ahead. She knows the time limit's coming because I'm just putting my back against like something, there's just that little bit, but for me, like, it took me a while to understand that, right? It took me a while to accept it. It also took me a while to vocalize it.
That's the big part,
right? Like you can accept it, but vocalizing it where the other ones around you, your loved ones, can understand a little bit,
and they can see what they can do for you,
right?
And how to help.
Yeah, because I tell you the truth, like in the beginning, when I'm going through this transition, and my transition was, it's a little bit different, right? So I had 3 months to figure it out, get out. Right, October 2012, I'm boots back on ground in the U.S. I'm on my 30-day ETS leave. I take the police exam, in Connecticut. I get hired by Norwich Police Department, July 2013. So maybe about a 6-8 month, gap, I'm still, smart enough where I'm like, I'm not getting out completely fail safe. I'll go guard, right? Just in case I need to activate myself, So in the interim, I'm collecting unemployment. I'm going, I'm drilling on the weekends, which that was definitely a different dynamic than active duty. And still a good time. New sergeant to the unit. But it just wasn't the same anymore. Right. The consistency of your unit being around you all the time, right?
Yeah, and you kind of miss that
You kind of miss that. You're shoulder to shoulder in formation every
all
morning,
the time.
right? Especially if you got the dude that like drank way too much the night
Oh
prior.
yeah,
You know he's falling out first.
oh yeah.
You
Well,
know,
when I was a young Marine, I used to overindulge, but I can also run. So what I used to do is I'd be the front road guard.
hmm
So I ran at my own pace.
yeah,
And no one had to smell the booze coming out of my pores. But that was a long time ago. So
yeah,
20 plus years ago. So
yeah. We've grown up a little bit.
a little bit. Yeah.
You know, like I'm sitting here on my, but this I told you before we started. It's the first time sitting on my podcast in a sport jacket because I just got off of work and I'm like, you know what,
just keep it on.
just keep it 100. Like, just got off of work, doing an episode. Normally I'm sitting in like a hoodie or something like that, something a little bit more calm. At least I got jeans on, right?
Nothing wrong with that.
At least I got jeans on.
You got pants on, so
yeah, I got pants on. That's a plus.
That's a big.
That's a plus. Yeah, that would be awkward.
I find
Interesting
myself,
episode.
I find myself on Zoom calls all the time now.
Yep.
And like in the middle of the day, find myself on a Zoom call, and some days I just, I'm not feeling it. And to segue into the small business aspect of it, I've done Zoom calls with just, a polo, shorts, polo on and shorts, and I'm just gonna adjust the camera so
Yep.
so it's just here.
It could even be like a cutoff shirt,
It could even be a cutoff shirt,
cutoff
yeah.
polo, So when did you decide to, be a business owner?
I decided that I wanted to do something like this when I was working for a company in Old Lyme, and we used to get our circuit boards from this guy who made them like in his basement or his garage. Get the circuit boards from there, and every time they'd come in, I'd have to rework them. So they'd come in, we'd spend X amount of dollars on it, and every time they came in the door, I'd have to get them on my bench, figure out what was wrong with it, and fix it. Complaining, getting home complaining to the wife and like, gotta fix this idiot's, work. I can do this myself. She's like, well, do it. I'm like, it's so much work. Well, fast forward. And 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago now, I left my previous job and ended up in a space. And, I don't know if I should say this. You know what? I'm not going to say that.
All right.
I'm not going to say that. I know it's been almost 2 years, but I'm still not going to say it. I left that job, and it was a Friday, and my wife says, "You're not going back to work."
Oh.
And I was like, I like cardboard boxes, but I don't want to live in one.
Yeah, right.
And she's like, "No, you've been complaining about this and talking about this for all these years. You're going to start your own company." And still in here, it's like, yeah, I don't know.
Scary.
I don't know. This is scary.
Scary, right? The unknown.
The unknown.
Yeah.
So by Sunday night, I had wrapped my head around it, and I'm like, okay, Sunday night, boom. Wrote down 3 paragraphs. What do I want to do? How do I want this to look? And from that 3 paragraphs came, phone calls that week and digging into different things that week, and it just expanded to this, registrations and, all this other stuff that I had to do. So I ended up getting a lot of stuff done in the first, I want to say 6 months before we even flipped the light switch on and said, hey, we're a company. So I had everything out of the way so I didn't have to go back and say, oh, we forgot about that. Oh, we forgot about that.
So let me rewind a little bit, because you what did you do in the Marine Corps?
Okay, in the Marine Corps, I did the same thing, really. I was a 2081 for those non-Marines. That is a ComSec repair.
Okay.
And micro miniature repair.
Oh, okay. So there was application
yes
to this transition.
Yes, there was.
Because you were going to be like, oh, I was infantry. Just pick up a circuit board and then just like go with
yeah, that's a big jump.
Yeah, it's a huge jump. You know. But I feel like we needed to add that context in there a little bit,
sense, yeah.
Like, you just didn't all of a sudden be like, I think today I'm going to work on circuit boards. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so the Marine Corps runs you through this course. That's on the civilian side, they run you through this course, and it's like 2 weeks long.
Yep.
The Marine Corps takes that course and they break it out to about 3 months.
Okay.
So it's the ins and outs of, building a circuit board. So you're building a circuit board. They even teach you, what to do when you burn the circuit board and destroy the circuit board, how to fix that. So it's one of those, it's the international course on steroids, I would say.
Gotcha.
So doing that, and for years, just doing that and working with electronics and working with all that. So I was in a good position. I just didn't have, and I'm still working on it now, the contacts to make everything really work, really start running smoothly.
Yep. I don't know why Radio Shack popped into my head, but I think I came up with a new nickname for you. No, that's cool. That's cool, man. So the circuit boards you work on now, is it like mainly like computers? Is it what are the circuit boards like doing? Can you talk about that?
Some of them, yes.
Okay.
So funny enough, I was at a conference last summer, and this is when we were only, a manufacturer. Because looking at the manufacturing side, we were like, okay, we're going to be a manufacturer because.
So you make them too?
Yes.
So it's not just
make them also.
Oh,
okay. That's what we first got into doing, was we wanted to be just a manufacturer.
Oh.
So we wrote the whole thing up. We're a manufacturer now. So I'm at a conference last summer and talking to all kinds of people, networking, getting
networking's key.
It's huge. It's huge. And I'm walking to my car to go grab something, and I hear behind me, oh, hey, he can probably help you out, help your company out. And I, kind of turn back, and it's like, yeah, hey, Chris, come back over here. I'm like, okay. And I go over there, and I get a contact for a company in New York that sells buses. And they have a need for circuit board repair. And she asks me, do you repair circuit boards too? A fraction of a second, I said, yes, we do. We do now. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, Chris, that's what you did, is repair circuit boards.
Right.
Why wouldn't that be a part of what you do now?
Right.
So we do repair. We fast forward about 6 months from there, and we got Metro North Railroad.
Wow.
So we do repairs for them also. We're working with a few people right now, a few companies, larger and one federal. Two federal. Sorry, we're looking at 2 federal. We just became a vendor for the VA.
Very nice.
So we have our hands in a lot of things right now. So we're trying to just.
But it didn't happen overnight.
It didn't happen overnight, not at all.
And there's a lot of hard work and grind behind the scenes that people don't see.
That first 6 months was about, I'd say every day was about a 10 to 12 hour day.
Well, because think about it. You're starting your own business, right? So like
from nothing.
From nothing.
From 3 paragraphs on a piece of paper. How does it look at the end of the day?
Yeah. And and I understand that, because that's what I did with Everlasting Veteran, right? Yeah. I took over the dining room, right? 1. And then 2, ended up building a studio, within the first 8 months of starting it up, and, managing the finances for it, getting sponsors, resourcing, materials and everything else, and researching, and, because before this, I was never on the radio. I was never like, this was completely out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Completely out of my wheelhouse. But I've always been that type of person that likes to challenge myself.
I'm the same way. And that's why I wear 27 hats now.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, as a business owner, like you said, you wear so many different hats, right? And, there's a little bit, and you can research and you can get a lot of information, but having a full mindset, understanding that what those hats look like, right?
That's it.
Like, how much work goes into each one of those roles?
Here's an example. So last week there was a conference up in Worcester. So that was last Tuesday. The Thursday before, I got an email from them saying, hey, you registered. If something comes up and you can't come, email us as quick as just so because we only have a certain amount of spots,
Right.
So I looked at it and I thought to myself, oh, I forgot about that, It's like, Chris, I don't want to go and deal with people. It's like, you know what? Set a task reminder for Monday to fire off an email. So I go through all weekend. Sunday night, I'm sitting there watching TV. And I'm like, Chris, what are you talking about? You're not going. I'm like, dude, that's your job. I'm like,
trying to talk yourself out of it.
And I'm like, dude, that's your job. Like, there's no not going. So yeah, another hat.
Yeah.
Another hat,
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times, like as business owners, we don't realize that, well, especially when you first start it, right? We understand networking to a certain degree. But there are like there is information out there. However, right, networking takes a lot of tact, a finesse,
It does.
being in the right place at the right
It
time,
does.
and having the will and determination, knowing that you have to continue to network, right, and not just to reach the goal you want to, but to continue on.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
And those networks, those bonds, right, and those are your information hubs, right?
That's exactly it. Right
and not just your information hubs, but like those are the connections that turns into a working business relationship, right? That sometimes feels better than like a friendship, right? Because you're accomplishing stuff. You're getting that like dopamine dump, of accomplishing. Like you go to the gym and you accomplish a workout. You get a task done, you accomplish it, right? And all those attributes carrying over from the military as a business owner, or
They're huge.
they're huge, or getting into a supervisory role, and stuff like that. The problem is a lot of times, and I discuss this a lot, especially in my new role. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But a lot of times we are not good at showcasing ourselves to our best abilities on paper and off. And we forget, all right, and we don't know how sometimes to translate that military lingo, the leadership skills, and all that stuff.
That's a big thing right there.
Into civilian lingo, right? And it's so crucial to be able to do so. And like resume writing and all that stuff, right, takes time and practice, right? But once you hone in, you get like a good format going, right? Plain language is so hard getting out of the military. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny because I actually found a whole network of veteran-owned businesses.
Yep.
Veteran CEOs that and all they're super helpful. The only thing they want to do is just help.
All right.
Like, okay, well, what do you need? Oh, I got a contact for that. Oh, my guy over here, he might be able to do that for you. Oh, let me call him.
All right.
Hey, call me next week. We'll set something up.
Yeah.
And and I found that through, actually, I found that through Lori.
Yep.
She knew of someone who went through this course at UConn. She put me in touch with him, and he said, yeah, I went to this course at UConn, and it got me QuickBooks for a year. And he had me at QuickBooks for a year. I said, oh, free QuickBooks for a year. Oh, this is great. So he's like, yeah, let me put you in contact with them. I said, oh, okay, great. I'm thinking QuickBooks for a year. And I told the wife, hey, this program gets us QuickBooks for a year. And she said, oh, that's great.
What happens after that, though?
You got to do it. So, it's a start. It's a start.
Right.
But it's like, oh, QuickBooks, the license for QuickBooks is like $500. So it's like, oh yeah, it's a start. Great. So I get on a Zoom with the two people that run the program, and I'm just pumping them for information. I'm like, how do I get QuickBooks? How do I get QuickBooks? Like, I just got to get QuickBooks. All right. And I'm pumping them for information. They're interviewing me at the same time. I don't even realize it. I'm just focused on QuickBooks. So then they're like, oh yeah, I think we can open up another spot for them. Yeah, I'll give them a call and we'll open up another spot for you. Look out for an email. I'm like, what just happened? I get off the call. I'm like, what just happened? And I'm like, hey, I think I signed myself up for something. Like, I have no idea what just happened, but that was ended up being um, entrepreneurial boot camp for veterans
Yep.
at UConn. It actually runs out of, I believe, 8 different schools nationwide, and it's under the IVMF, which is the Institute for Veterans and Military Families. I think I got that right.
You nailed the acronym. Like
It sounds,
Yeah.
sounds.
We're
We're,
just- we're-
we're just gonna roll with that.
yeah, we're going to roll
We're
with
just
it.
gonna roll with that one.
Yep. If it's not called that, they need to change it.
But it's this entire network of just veterans helping veterans.
Yep.
In business, and it's been super helpful to me again. That's actually where I was last week, the conference last week, and again saying, dude, that's your job. Like, it's your job to go, like, you got to throw on your other hat.
Yeah.
Like, wake up Tuesday, put your other hat on, and drive up to Worcester.
Yeah. But I find I find a lot of times that, myself included, right? We get that we talked about that scary moment, right?
Exactly.
The unsure, the
Yep.
uncertainty,
That's
right?
it.
The leap of faith, right? Because I think the biggest thing, it's not disappointing others, it's disappointing
That's
ourselves,
the biggest thing.
right?
That's
And
the
that,
biggest thing.
like, not knowing how to accept failure, right? And I've talked about this so much, of getting comfortable being uncomfortable,
You have to.
right? That uncomfortableness, that is your drive, that's your growth, that is everything.
There is no growth without discomfort.
And failure,
Period. Or
And-
failure. Yeah.
right? Because if you succeed all the time, right? Whoever has done that in life and has never failed, right? I want to meet that. I want to meet that
guy.
person.
What does that guy eat for breakfast?
Yes, yeah.
I-
That's a special person.
That's a special person.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at like, Elon Musk,
Mhm.
right? How many failures has he had?
So many.
Right? Even recently with like his rocket program and all that kind of
Yep.
stuff. Right? And that's like, somebody's got lots of money, right? So like, he can sneeze and it'd be fine, right? But for us, right, bringing it back into like our world, sometimes we're putting everything into it,
Yeah. That's the
and
thing.
we don't have enough bandwidth or funding. Like, if this doesn't work out, this is it.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a big piece there too, because everyone talks about funding for, oh yeah, just go get a small business loan. It's fine. They'll give that to you. Well, what they don't tell you is a bank won't even look at you if you're under 2 years old.
Yep. Yep.
Like, there's no.
Isn't that crazy? Like, to start up a business, right? So like, you got to go get a job, right, to build some money.
Well, it's either you have the time to start the business,
Mhm.
which leaves you without the money,
Right.
or you have the money, which leaves you without the time.
Right. Yeah.
So
And
I was put in a position that I was handed both. So it was like, okay, you have both. Run.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Well, and that's sometimes how you got to do it. Like the opportunity. Let's talk about opportunity, right? This is a very in depth conversation with opportunity.
I like this. Where this is going.
Because opportunity not only is a mental game,
Mhm.
right? But that a lot of people talk about it, right? Mental drain, right, affects your physical health.
It does.
Right.
Absolutely does.
So, but you have to take the opportunities when they come. You have to create opportunities, right? And in order to do that, you have to have the will, the drive, the ambition.
The other thing is you have to be prepared when that opportunity
Right.
pops up. Because
Yeah.
that opportunity can pop up, and you could be sitting there with nothing, not ready to.
Well,
take
just
it
like
off.
you talked about, like, here you're grilling these people trying to get information, not realizing an opportunities existing or starting
It's
to
starting to,
exist,
right
right?
there,
Started
yeah.
to exist, ends up being a job interview. And that's where that networking comes in, right? That networking, you never know when that opportunity is going to exist. So the presentation, the first impression, right, of how you want to present yourself. And I'm not saying you have to wear a suit every day, but like, you should probably like do a little bit of research, right? Especially if you're going to conferences or networking events, see who's
See
going,
who's going. Yep.
right? See who's going, see who the players are, do a little bit of research. All right. If you recognize some names, jump on LinkedIn, see if you can find a profile, right? The easiest way to create connection, right? Even if you haven't met them, right? If you know they're going to be there, right? And you research them just like you would if you're going for a job interview.
That's the best way to do it right
And
there.
then you go, hey, I recognize you.
So example of that, I in the Marine Corps, when I was in Japan, I had a Marine that was getting out medically. She's from Connecticut. She was coming back to Connecticut to go work at Sikorsky Aircraft.
Great company.
And this is 20 years ago. Okay. So she's still there. She's risen a little bit over there. But I was going to a conference and I, looking at who was going to be there, and I see, Sikorsky's going to be there. I said, okay, well, you know what I'm going to do? Let me sign up for a meeting with Sikorsky, and I'm going to name drop. I need you, Chris, to name drop within the first 3 seconds of sitting down.
That's good.
And I walked in and I dropped that name like almost immediately. Hey, how's it going? I know someone you work with. She was one of my Marines. You're like, oh yeah, we love her. Oh yeah, she's awesome. She's so awesome. I'm like, yeah, she sure is.
Yeah.
And then just, take it from there. And that person that I sat down with happened to be the small business liaison officer for Sikorsky. So we're working on some things with Sikorsky also. Now, we pushed them off a little bit because we have a lot of other things going on right now. But we're in the pipeline.
That's good. Yeah. Just going back to, it's all encompassing what we're talking about, right? Mindset, doing your research, networking, small business ownership. This is crucial.
It is.
Right.
But the other thing is you don't know who's going to be at these things.
Right.
And not just the players not just the big guys, but you don't know who's going to be walking around.
Right. Yeah. Because, they're always looking. There are companies that are having feelers out there.
Mm-hmm. There's always a company that needs something.
Yeah.
Needs something out there. And, I realized that the same feeling I had of, oh, dude, it's your job. Someone I went through the EBV program, he happened to be there too. And he's like, I had that same discussion with myself this morning. He's like, I put on my suit jacket and I was like, I don't want to go. Take it off. He's like, dude, you got to go. Put it back on. I'm not going. Take it back off. And he's like, it's your job. And he's like, fine.
Yeah. Well, to the point you're talking about, when you have those opportunities, right, when it presents themselves with the networking, right, this is where that behind the scenes hard work comes in.
That's it.
Right. Where you have, people talking about you in a positive way behind your back.
Yeah.
Right. And, those people that talk about you behind closed doors, in support, right, are those people you want to keep close.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And I've met so many of them through this, so many people that have, gotten me a phone number or gotten me an email introduction or something like that, and just like, hey, have you talked to so-and-so about this? And I was like, I don't know who that is. Like, oh, okay. I got you. I got you. Let's set up a meeting. Let's set up a Zoom meeting for next Thursday. All right, cool. Let's do that. So
that's how it happens a lot of times, man, because I'll tell you a lot of the connections that I've made before, whether it's, remote, LinkedIn, social media, whatever the case may be, I've made connections through TikTok, right? Using every avenue approach, especially scheduling guests, right? So I've briefly talked about this before, and anybody that's in the podcasting world and doing it by themselves, they understand what I'm saying, right? There is not a scheduling team behind me, right? There is not a finance person behind me, right? There is not I have a legal team that I use writing contracts and stuff like that, but
it's just you.
Other than that, it's just me, right?
You.
So if I want guests on, right? Whether it's I prefer in studio now they have this beautiful studio, but if I can't bring them on, right? And I also want to bring a diverse group of guests on from all walks of life.
Oh yeah.
Right. Because that perspective.
That's it.
Right. The perspective is key
and it's different.
to that transition too, right? That transition out of the military, right? And I'll touch on it a little bit again because we get so focused on, and I saw this when I was a police officer, and I saw it in the military, and I saw it when I got out and I was a veteran. Is nobody can help us, right? I can only like network within the veteran community, right? And you're putting those metaphorical blinders
You
on,
really are.
right? Because you're not allowing yourself to grow,
That's it.
right?
That's it. So what we found is, I guess about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, I got a call out of the blue, in the office. Like, hey, is this Chris? Yep, it's Chris. Hey, I got your number from Jan's Electronics. Like, oh, okay, great. Like, hey, I got a problem with the circuit board. Maybe hoping that you can help me out. So, yeah, I'll come by. Get up there, and my wife had the day off that day, so she came with me. Said, okay, got to throw the polos on. We throw our work polos on and drive up there. And we get to the northeast corner of Connecticut. A lot of farms up there.
Ever been in the Northwest?
Yeah, a lot up there too.
I drove out there. So I have my real estate license, and when I was like really active, especially as a new agent, I'm like, oh yeah, do an open house. Send me the location. I was 10 minutes from the New York border. I didn't realize like how far, right? Like this part of Connecticut in that northwest corner is, of how far out it is.
It's out
It's
there.
easier driving 95
And then going north.
and then going north. Like, so I took, I just looked at the GPS and it went like that. I'm going to do that one.
So you just
right?
took 44 straight across.
Yeah, just up in, in hop skip. Everybody was coming to see the house was from New York. That's how close I was, right? And it's in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, I hope my phone doesn't die. I forgot my charger. I don't know how to get back home. Like, I'm just going to freaking follow the sun, And yeah, that was an experience.
That's
right.
Yeah, I imagine
And,
that.
I
But,
mean,
coming back from, like I was saying a minute ago, coming back from up in the northeast corner, and I look over driving back, and I look over at my wife, and I said, it's something I didn't even think about. All the farming equipment.
right.
So, because I'm working on a board right now it was built 30 years ago, and he explained that the guy who made it, I think he died. I mean, I don't mean to laugh off that, but
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, he died, so there's no way for me to replace this board, and I don't know how to fix it. It's like, oh, well, I do. No one else does it, so we do.
And that's all like the soldering and
Yeah.
like doing all the little circuitry that goes into it.
All that.
You got like the little magnifying glass to the magnifying glass, and
We use microscopes.
I was trying to be funny.
But yeah, it's something like that. Yeah.
Flicking the mag.
But thinking about different
We are in
conferences-
2024 now.
That's
you
true.
know.
Thinking about different conferences, and it's like, well, we should start looking at agricultural conferences to go to,
Right.
and transportation conferences to go to.
What about the machine? What about they have like some farming machines now that I think are like remote too, right?
I'm sure they do. I don't know a whole lot about farming.
Like they have a pattern in which the machine can follow.
Yes.
Right.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
It's still like manned, right?
It's somewhat manned.
But
they still got to program it.
Yeah, they still got a program. So that would be up your alley as far as like circuit boards go, because that's the brains of.
But making those connections and letting the agricultural community know that, hey, we're here.
Yeah. Well,
like if your boards go down, we're here.
That brings me to my next point.
That combine cost $100,000.
Yeah.
I'll fix your circuit board for a couple thousand.
Yeah. Well, you nailed the next point that I was going to bring up as a small business owner, even a business owner, organization, whatever. All right. This isn't the field of dreams. If you build it They won't come if they don't know you exist.
Don't know you exist.
Right?
Exactly.
Visibility
It's the biggest thing.
is the biggest thing. And we're in an age where word of mouth is just not good enough anymore.
No.
Right? It is for, you still got to do it.
Yeah.
Right? There's the boots on ground, grinding. You still got to do it. But if you are not tech savvy, if you don't want to get social media, if you don't want, to jump into an age where technology, right, is surpassing people, even us, right? Like, I mean, the kids now, my 8-year-old, right, is showing me stuff on my phone that I didn't even know like existed, right? And it's one of those things where maybe you don't have to know everything, right? We're not going to know everything, right? We're going to learn along the way. However, you have to educate yourself on best visibility tactics.
Absolutely.
Right? Especially
marketing is huge.
Marketing's huge.
Marketing is huge.
And here's the thing is you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars, right? There is a grind and a hustle with social media, right? There's a grind and a hustle. Like you saw my truck, right? Easiest way. I don't have to do anything. I have a magnet on the back of my truck. So every time I'm at a light, someone can scan a QR code, right? Genius, right?
Brilliant.
I originally had it on my door and I'm like, why am I having, one, I took it from my door because they kept falling off. And I put it on the back of my car because the wind was whipping them off. Right. So I'm like, well, I just spent like $150 on these magnets, right? From Vistaprint. I'm like, why don't I put it on the back of my truck?
Vistaprint,
right?
Good people.
That's where everybody's going to see it. Right. Nobody's going to see it on the side of my truck unless I stop.
Yeah.
Right. But I've had so many people almost rear end me trying to scan the QR code. I'm almost like, maybe I shouldn't have put it on there. Like I've thought people were like having a road rage incident. Like I'm not going fast enough. Right. And no,
they're trying to catch up to you.
There's been people that hang out the window to scan the QR code. Mostly passengers, thank God.
Of course,
right?
Of course, we
don't condone distracted driving.
Yeah. So I say, I don't text while I drive. That's dangerous.
Yes.
I only read articles.
Yes. Books on tape.
Books.
But yeah, whatever, man. Kindle.
They make those?
Used to.
I flip the pages.
Oh, you just open a straight hard copy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes,
I mean, you can get
so much safer than texting.
Well, you can get a Tesla now that just autopilots wherever you're going, But visibility is such a key component, right? And it's all encompassing with the networking, but there's also an aspect of marketing and a digital marketing aspect as well, where that digital marketing, if you don't capitalize on that, like you're losing potential audience, clients,
Absolutely.
And everything else.
And like for us, both me and my wife, we are horrible at social media, and not just
welcome to the club.
So for us, it's like, okay, we got to start throwing things up on, because we have we have our Facebook page, we have an Instagram page, we have a YouTube channel. So we have to remember to just keep throwing things up. I think we're going to set a schedule that like every week.
You got a website?
We do.
What's your website?
cmbcircuits.com.
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 What's your, I learned this too when I got into the social media game of business. What's your handles? IG?
Yeah.
Facebook?
If you punch in CMB Circuits,
you can find us on CMB Circuits in Connecticut.
Circuits in Connecticut. You can find us on Instagram, on Facebook. On the Instagram and on the Facebook.
The Book of Faces.
Because I am that old. You
had MySpace, right?
Had MySpace, yeah.
I remember when MySpace came out, and I remember when Facebook came out, and
it was the Facebook.
And I had a college email. I was able to get on it. Like it was like the coolest thing, right? But MySpace was even cooler because you could put music.
Yeah, MySpace.
You could change your themes. Yep. Like we need MySpace back.
We really do.
Like
we really do.
that allowed you, and I think it actually would help in a sense if Mark Zuckerberg or anybody's listening on social media platforms that control that. Think about it this way. We're in a digital age now with social media where that's how people communicate, get the vibe from you, understand your personality
and
a little
that was
bit.
an early one too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
But think about it. It's the same as when we used to record a song from the radio for our voicemails.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's Chris Connelly, leave a message. You got music playing in the background.
In the background,
And that's how you had your voicemail set up, right?
Yeah.
And it would like it projected your personality, right? It was your image you wanted to put out there.
That was it.
And I think with the disconnect that especially the youth are having right now of being on social media so much, that's how they communicate and everything else, of having that added aspect of MySpace, right?
With the music,
Change the themes, you could personalize it.
Yep.
Right? It allows you to have that just a little bit more in-depth, like personal connection.
It's almost as if you're looking into the personality of that company.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, if like, I build websites too. So
you told me before I struggled to build mine.
Yeah. Well, I've built maybe about 6 or 8 websites in the last like year. 3 are my own. But when I redid Everlasting Veterans website, everlastingveteran.com, I ended up going e-commerce, right? So I'm like, what is the cheapest way as a small business owner I can go e-commerce, doing my research and everything. And then I found the wonderful Square.
Yep.
Right? Where now like somebody can tap my phone. I don't have to bring the Square with me. But I had already built like a website through Google, your basic landing page type of thing, couple tabs here and there. But now like I've gone into where I've added like videos in the background, pictures here and there, different framed pictures. Some are like circle, some are square, so it pictures of the studio in there, pictures of me, picture of dog presentation, so on and so forth. So it represents what I do fairly well, right? It's in that same aspect of the representation of my company and what I do and the language I use. It is my presentation that I want to show people.
Yeah.
Right. And that visibility aspect can turn somebody off. Let's talk about this real quick, right? Just because you like it doesn't mean it's good for your business.
That's true.
Right. Because you have to listen to your clientele. You have to listen to, the workplace.
That's the thing. And you have to be flexible.
Yeah.
You have to be flexible in whatever market space you're in.
Yeah.
Because like I mentioned before, we only started to be a manufacturer. And then we got the question, do you repair boards too? Yeah, we sure do.
Mm-hmm.
We do now.
Yeah. Well, and that's a testament to like any company, small or big, any organization, small or big, right? When the service changes, right? The need for service or what the service is changes. You have to change with the times. However, you don't want to jump out of your niche and back into your niche, out of your niche and back into your niche.
Not at all.
The stuff that you post, and this is why, like I had the QBC sports podcast, high schoolers on, and I told them, hey, the launch of your podcast, because, I mentor them and help them start up their podcast. Well, they started it, but bringing it to a professional level.
Yeah.
Right. And I told them, I said, hey, for the first episode, like we'll launch it live and I'll let you use my platform, and launch it out to 5 different platforms. But I can't consistently do that because that's not what Everlasting Veteran's about. Right. It's not in my niche. Right. And I can't consistently be posting about QBC sports. I can share your stuff. Right.
But that's not where your space is.
That's not where my space is. So like, the point is even if you want to draw, like you want to bump your followers up, you want to, grow your audience, like you're going to have to create a separate thing because you're going to lose followers. You're going to lose engagement. You're going to lose clientele. You're going to lose that connection to what people think your organization or company does.
That's it.
Right. And rebranding, continuously rebranding is so it kills a company, right? Because people, they connect with, the first thing, yeah, maybe a couple rebrands here and there over a long period of time as things progress and grow. But if you rebrand over and over and over again, you're not giving people a chance to connect with what you do or understand what you do.
That's it. It's like our business cards.
Mm-hmm.
So last week, ran into somebody that I've run into a few times over the last year and a half, I guess. And we get to talking, and there's a few of us talking there, and he says, because, Chris, I could never forget your business card. It's like you flip it over, and it's got the Marine Corps blood stripe running down the back of it. There you go.
Yeah. Well, and that's like, it's a business card, so not to be cliche, but it's your calling card, right? It's your, as a small business owner, your brand is you.
That's it.
Right. And it's your personality, it's your work ethic, it's your connection, it's your network, everything, right? Your brand is you. Right. And a lot of people, this is where people get caught up is I started this, and I just want to put it in comparison for me, is I started up this podcast, and I didn't start the podcast to be the next Joe Rogan. I didn't start it to be this. Did I do like research to see what they use for equipment, stuff like that, to educate myself, because I'm jumping into a new like realm of things, right? Yeah, absolutely. But I'm not creating a podcast that goes off the wall and I think Joe Rogan sometimes awesome, hilarious dude, great podcast.
But you want to stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
And this year was actually the first year that I actually started listening to podcasts. I had Everlasting Veteran going and doing episodes for almost a year. Never listened to a podcast in my life. Right. Because I said to myself, I'm like, yeah, maybe and I'll listen to little pieces here and there, like an intro, right? An outro. Because this was all new to me, right? So understanding the dynamics, right? And the best action to take of opening an episode, right? And doing it in my own way, right? It's similar to like leadership in the military, a company or anything else. Like you take, especially in the military, right? We talk about this all the time. There's good leaders, there's bad leaders, and there's people that just shouldn't been promoted, right? And even the bad leaders and the people that shouldn't have been promoted, they have good attributes, right? But we take little pieces of that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we understand that we don't want to be like this, right? We want a little piece of this, but we're going to make it our own. And then you form your own way, your own path, right? And it's similar to, and I say it all the time, kids are innocent, right? They look to us, right? How we act, how we talk, how we interact with each other.
They're a reflection of us.
They're a reflection of us, right? And they take the pieces and create their own personality, right? It's the same thing. Same exact thing when you're stepping into a leadership role and being a leader and everything else. Also, back to transition, right? Getting out of the military, we're so used to that high caliber leadership, right? That direction, that guidance, that structure, everything else. When we get out, it goes away.
Yeah.
Right.
And we look at civilians and we're like, oh, this is.
Yeah. But the thing is, it doesn't go away in here or in here, right? It's just now we have to be the sergeant major. We have to be the commander. Like we have to be everything for ourselves, right? And we have to apply those teachings that we've learned, right, into the civilian world, right? And we have to transcribe that into our resumes, right? Our skills, our attributes, everything else, and showcase ourselves to the best of the ability.
Absolutely.
And
I didn't even think of it like that, though.
Well, it took me a little bit to think like that, right? It didn't happen overnight. So all of a sudden, Ryan Landry had an epiphany and said, let there be light. Here we go. But it took time, and I wish I had somebody. I did have people along the way, but I wish I had that like one person that just shook me, right, and was like, "You have the skills, you have the ability,
everything you need.
You have everything you need. They just don't know it." Right? I wish somebody shook me years ago, right, and said, "You did more in the military, right? They don't know it or they're not listening,
That's it.
right?
That's
And
it.
you have to make them listen professionally and tactfully, right?
Always tactfully.
Yep. Which leads me to my next thing, right? I talk about this control alt delete, right, all the time. Control yourself, alter your mindset, delete the negativity.
Like that.
So I had a job transition recently. I was a police officer for over 11 years, and now the associate director for Veterans Rally Point. Love it.
And congratulations again on that.
I appreciate it. Everything I was doing outside the police department, reconnecting with the veteran community in my own, way, building those bonds again, helping out, start Everlasting Veteran, start a dog program. I got 2 more dogs I'm donating at Vets Rock Mohegan Sun.
Okay.
November 16th. Anybody's in the area, come to Mohegan Sun. But just go to Mohegan Sun's website, type in Vets Rock. So it's same show, run a show, open ceremony at the box office, followed by noon to 4 over in the ballroom with all the vendors and stuff like that. But one thing for me is, I'm like, I can do more, right? I have so much knowledge. I have so much passion of helping others, and I was at a crossroad in my life, right? And the transition came upon itself in a way, right? Where I started Everlasting Veteran and almost essentially created a new trajectory for my life, right? Unintentionally.
Yeah.
Right. Because I started the podcast and this was, it still is in a sense, a therapy session of sorts for me, unorthodox, that to be able to talk about stories, right? Be able to talk about our journeys, right? And the power of storytelling.
Oh yeah.
Right. And, I didn't realize how much I was going to love it. Right. And it's part of me. This is who I am. Right. And I wouldn't have it any other way. But it gives me an opportunity to not just tell my story, but allow others to come on, be on the platform. I've had people from the UK to Canada, all over the world, right? And well-known names too. Lynette Nersbacher from Mysteries of the Abandoned.
Okay.
Never thought and that was one of those, let's see what happens. Hey, you want to come on the podcast? Craig Wayne Boyd, from The Voice, Team Blake, right? Everybody that comes on here gives perspective, right? Gives just a little bit insight into what our struggles and successes were are and what our trajectory is going to be.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody's more valuable than the rest. We're all humans, which leaves me to my next point. Just be a good human being.
That's it. That's it.
It'll
shine through.
You wake up, don't wake up and choose violence. Just wake up and find some positivity. Right. It's difficult sometimes. Right.
It is. It really
and
is.
I want people, and I'm going to pass it over to you in a second. I want people to know that I still have my days, right? Everybody does.
Oh yeah.
Right. Where that storytelling, that talking about what we go through and everything else allows us to create a deep connection from a distance, but the connection's now there after service.
That's it.
And I've had my run of, we get done with deployment, first thing we do was it package store, right? What do we drink at Jack Daniels, right? I don't know why that was the go-to. Everybody, Jack Daniels, some guys were getting 630 racks. And I'm like looking back on it, man, I'm like, wow. How did we survive?
How did we survive? we got back from when I flew back from Okinawa. I'll never forget. We're on we land at LAX and they're taking us over to Pendleton. So you have this big bus, has emblazoned on the side. It's a red tour bus that has a big gold Eagle Globe and Anchor on the side of it. So they drive us out to Camp Pendleton. They put us all in a squad bay. like in the back of base where, you know, the misfits, nobody really cares about us back there. So we all put our stuff down, and you know, little groups of people actually knew each other. So little groups of Marines. So like, all right, put our stuff down. All right, let's go. We get over to the class 6. In the class 6, we look around, and every single other Marine that was on that bus is in the class 6 doing the same thing. The same thing. Everyone's grabbing a bottle, grabbing. Oh, what are you grabbing? Oh, hey, mind if I share? It's like, mind if I share? Because I'm gonna grab some of this. You like this? You know, it's like,
or you get back from deployment, and they may call it something else in the Marine Corps. You get a zonk, and in the Army, the first sergeant come up and yell zonk, and you scatter. Like that means like we're done for the day. We just have first formation, make sure everybody's alive. And that went on for like, I don't know, maybe 4 months, like after deployment. And like it's immediate, like go change, and you're finding, you know,
like disappear.
You disappear.
Don't be here.
Don't be here. Don't be seen.
Don't be seen. Don't be here.
Don't be here.
Yeah.
Don't like.
If somebody sees you, that's your problem. But
yeah,
I'm telling you to get out of here.
Yeah. So I had some buddies that, you know, they had their family and stuff over, you know, on base in Germany, or a couple guys had some houses out in the community and stuff. So, you know, it was like immediately like jump in the car, like go change,
make yourself disappear,
jump in the cars, and you're gone. And then you realize like how beat up somebody was from the night prior. You get to that first formation, and it's like the whole formation's going like this, right? And you're like, is this how it's going to be the rest of the time? You know? But yeah, good times.
Oh yeah.
So what's kind of you know, your next steps? Like, you know, you got your business you've been up and running for 2 years now, you said?
We've been up and running. We flipped the light switch on May 30th of last year.
Okay.
So we've been up and running since May 30th.
Is a metaphorical light switch like in here? Or
no,
an actual light switch?
Actual, well, both.
Okay.
And we got our certificate from the state that we are officially a company on May 30th of last year. So
I also didn't know, because like you're in like circuit boards and stuff like that. If like
it's that one, this one, and the piece of paper to say that we're a company.
Yeah.
So going forward, we have a lot of good opportunities in front of us. Hopefully we can be. Hopefully we'll get the opportunity to work with the Air Force coming up here.
Oh, nice.
So actually the Air Reserve up in Westover. So hopefully that can be something. So hopefully that turns into something.
So I
rephrase that.
I got a question for you. And a lot of people don't realize this happens when success starts setting in. When you have success, when your life is now like consumed by your like success in a positive way.
In a positive way.
In a positive way. All right. Where you're just focused.
Yep.
You're focused and driven. Why do you think that people either A, try to pull you back down? Do you think they're jealous? They just stop being friends with you, right? I'll tell you my opinion on it in a minute. Why do you think, like, those people that were your support, right? Have you had those people be shed off?
No, I haven't.
Like, absolutely nobody.
Absolutely nobody.
Absolutely nobody.
And it's funny, we had when I was up at the EBV program in Hartford at UConn School of Business, the last night we had a dinner, and after that I got a buddy that lives like right downtown. He's got a brownstone right downtown. We grew up together, you know, from knee high to a grasshopper. And I walked over to his house, and we then drove to another buddy's restaurant who's a chef. And we're all out there, we're having some drinks, and we're looking at the three of us. It's like, you have your restaurant. Like, I have my company. You just won your third Emmy. I think the three of us are doing all right.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, it was like, I think
Yeah.
the three of us are doing okay, you know, I think like, and we've been at this for, you know, what, 30 plus years at this point, you know, what did we meet when we were all like 8? So,
Yeah.
you know, we're in our mid 40s now. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, we're,
Why do you think it happens sometimes though? Because it does happen.
it does happen. It
It does
absolutely
happen.
happens. You know, honestly, I think it's,
Like, especially when somebody really elevates themselves.
I think it has something to do with people just not being in the same or not being able to understand, you know, certain mindsets. Like if I can't understand your mindset for success if I've never sought out success myself.
Yep.
So if you're achieving all this stuff and you're just rocking it, if I've never been in a position to chase success myself, I might not notice that. That's just how I mean, I could be wrong.
No,
But
I agree. I agree with that. I would also think that some of it too is, you know, when people go in a different direction, right? The career change or whatever the case may be, right? It your circle changes,
it does.
you know, potentially.
Yeah.
Right. Naturally, if it's like a different career path entirely,
Mhm.
right? Or you know, you're at a different level, right?
Yep.
So as you grow and progress and you move up through either your personal, you know, goals and ranks and everything else. And that's the key is like staying true to your goals,
That's it.
right? Nobody can create them for you.
Yeah.
They can give you an idea, but they can't do it for you, right? And you don't want anybody to take that away. Like if you want to hit this goal, right? You have to keep working for it
That's it.
for yourself,
That's it right there.
right?
No one's gonna do it for you.
Nobody's going to do it for you. The disappointing thing I've seen, I've had it happen to me, right? Where I've had, you know, and not intentional to like to I'm not like ignoring somebody or anything like that. It's
Mhm.
just I think that some people, especially if they're not small business owners, they don't understand how much work behind the scenes goes into
That's
stuff,
it. You
right?
know, I'm
And
not ignoring you.
yeah,
I've been swamped.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
and
not ignoring.
it's tough. It's tough because like you don't want it to like sound like an excuse,
Mhm.
like an excuse that you're blowing them off,
Yeah.
right? It's just they don't have the understanding of it, which I think that that communication we talked about, right? That communication of you got to make time for those
You
people,
absolutely do.
right? You have to make time for those people so they can understand, right? Just like we have to make time as veterans to like tell at least the ones closest to us what we're going through,
We do.
right? Because that's mental hurdle, that mental battle, that an internal battle that we've gone through, right? If we don't and they say this all the time in psychology of like verbalizing stuff,
Mhm.
especially when you're doing like speeches or whatever the case may be, or learning something, right? Is training your brain, right? It's training your brain to find acceptance, to understand it better. And when you say it out loud, especially like, you know, I'll say a funny thing in a minute, but if you say it out loud, like it allows you to hear yourself saying it,
It
right?
does. It does.
And, you know, it goes to the point of like if you say something like and it sounded different in your head, right? How many times that happened to you?
That sounded a lot better in my head.
Yeah, it sounded a
Oh.
lot better in my head,
Yeah.
right? Um, but it's a testament. The point is that like what we think and what it sounds like when it comes out allows us to understand what we're thinking a little bit
Mhm.
better, right? And it allows us to
Definitely.
talk. You know, they have those like talk therapies and everything else, but it allows us to talk through it, right? And I've talked about it before, having my own board meeting, right? And saying stuff out loud, right?
I do that same thing.
Yeah,
Like I think I have a hot wash of of almost work situations, and for me it's just,
yeah,
you know, me, but I'll put on all my hats at the same time and just sit there and just have a conversation.
yeah,
Have, you know, conversation about 4 different things.
yeah. It's completely normal.
And well, I mean, my wife will be upstairs like, who you talking to? Dad? you know, and I'm like, oh, she's like, you talking to yourself? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
No, just use you're in a board meeting, right?
Yeah.
I'm in a board meeting right now. Don't bother me, right? No, because it's that thought process, right?
It is.
It's
You got to talk through things a lot.
yeah, that's what it comes down to, and that's kind of a long way to get to it. But when I try to explain stuff, especially when I think stuff, like I have what I actually like know and like think, and then like sometimes when it comes out, it just is not the
It's like,
same.
oh, that went bad.
It's like that
Yeah.
went terrible, right? And I've thought it through, but it still came out bad, right? Or like something came out really good, and like I don't know where I came up with it. You know what I mean? But it's that thought process. It's working through those thought process, right? And that's why it's so crucial, when you're transitioning, when you're, going through anything, and you can veteran or not, right?
It's so true.
Veteran or not, and this is that perspective, right? Is we can be more relatable with each other through communication, right? And I talk about, you can't have community without unity, right? And I've said it for a while. People are starting to pick up on it. And they're trying to create their own thing with it, and it doesn't sound the same. It sounds cooler when I say, I'm not going to lie, right? Because unity's in community,
Yeah.
right? And the community which you build is through conversation, understanding each other,
That's
understanding the strengths, the struggles, the hardships, the good stuff, the ups and downs, right? And all walks of life, right? And this and I'll call it's this new found perspective that I had that started, a few years back, that I started changing my mindset, right? I started hitting that control alt delete, right? A lot of people make fun of me for saying it, but it works. It works for me. It may not work for you, right?
One of the biggest things I pulled from the Marine Corps is know yourself and seek self-improvement.
Yeah.
Every day I'm working on something. Like, it doesn't matter how small it is, I can always be better at something.
All right.
No matter how big or small.
Yeah.
That's just a fact of life, and that's everybody.
Yeah, and it goes to the point of like it's something we learned in the military.
Yeah.
Right? It's something that's ingrained in us, and using those attributes. Don't let them go by the wayside.
No,
right?
Do not do that.
That structure. I don't fold, the corners of my sheets anymore, right?
No, I don't do that. No.
Right. If that's the structure you need, and I'm not discouraging anybody of not doing it, but if that's what you need to get you over that hurdle, right? Those little stuff that we've done, right? Maybe start with it, right? It may allow you to hit a reset button.
I'll tell you one thing I do still do. I still fold my shirts 12 by 12.
Do you do the roll when you go travel?
I do. But I do it 12 by 12, and it's like, and
it's efficiency.
It is, and they just fit so much better too.
Yeah.
And I'm folding it 12 by 12, and we have a like 2 towers for our t-shirts, and I look at my side of the tower, and everything fits. Everything's neat and it fits. And I used to look over at my wife's side, and it's she'll get mad at me for saying this, but I looked over at her side, and the tower, it's all up to here, and it's leaning to the side, getting ready to fall over. And I'm like, well, why don't you just fold your shirts 12 by 12? It's like, I don't know how to. It's like, oh. Okay. It's like, well, yeah, if you just fold it like this, and she's like, what? How'd you even? So she got herself a folding thing. Never even seen.
Oh, the little things that go like, yeah.
She got one of those 12 by 12, and she's like, oh yeah.
They use that in department stores when they use that when they're restocking everything else.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah,
but now all the shirts are 12 by 12. They all fit. And
how awesome would that have been to have in the military?
It would have been great,
right?
It would have been great.
Like, I don't even know if it existed then.
Junk on the bunk inspections.
Yeah,
like, nobody's failing.
No,
nobody's failing.
No, yeah. But the thing is, like, just to hammer it home, those teachings, those attributes, those skills, from leadership to time management to structure, right? It's so crucial for your transition, right? You have to recreate, right, what the structure is going to look like. You have to recreate what your time management is going to be, right?
That's it.
And you have to fit it to your life, not for somebody else.
And it's so important for
right?
a small business.
Unless you got like a family and stuff, then it's the togetherness, right?
And that's so important for a small business,
right?
Because like nobody's doing it but you,
right?
So, when are you going to set aside time to do the books?
Mhm.
When are you going to set aside time to make those phone calls? When are you going to set aside time to actually get in and do the work?
Yeah.
It's all these pieces that, and again, wearing all the hats,
Yep.
It's like,
yeah. And I tell you, so like,
I got to go shake some hands today.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep. And I'll tell you, like, I went through it and I talk about it all the time of transition and everything. I just went through a life transition,
Mhm.
life altering transition, taking a different job. All right. I was on midnights, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. for 10.5 years. Right. I lost a decade of sunshine. Right.
That's rough.
That's rough.
That's rough.
Right. I mean, yeah, like in the evenings I get up or like on the weekends, but I was a zombie.
Yeah.
Right. And, it took, and I'm going to start diving into the mental health aspect and sleep and everything
Mhm.
else right now because it's so crucial and important. I didn't realize it. It wasn't until I connected with the Navy SEAL. I had him on as one of my first guests. And he has been dubbed the sleep genius, and he really dived into sleep study and everything else, sleep therapy, um, everything having to do with sleep,
Mm.
right? And that started because he lost one of his brothers, right, to suicide. And I didn't realize how sleep deprived I was, right? How bad my sleep apnea. I didn't even know I had sleep apnea until the VA diagnosed me, right?
I have it too.
Insomnia,
Mhm.
right? I knew like after deployment and everything else, I started snoring like crazy. The whole 9 yards. And it wasn't until I had a sleep study done, and they're like, "Hey, you stop breathing almost every minute." And it was so let me tell you the story real quick.
I got one for you too.
Before I really dive into it. So the VA sets me up. I go down to West Haven, and it's on a Saturday. I'm like, damn, they're open on a Saturday? I'm like, sweet. Right? So and for me, I'm on midnight. So I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to go to sleep. So I bring like my Advil PM. I'm like, can I take this? Like, he's like, no, you can't. Right. He goes, but Mr. Landry, I just let you know, here's a video. They have this old ass TV they roll out. Right. And the video on sleep apnea, insomnia, and everything else. Set you up in a hospital bed. You want me to put the leads on you now? It's like 47 leads all over your body. Right. And I was like, yeah, go ahead. It's probably like 8 o'clock at this point. 7:30, 8 o'clock. And he goes, the last thing he said to me is, I will only come and wake you up and put the CPAP on, the mask on, if it's really bad. And I have to like wake a doctor up on a weekend to get permission. So in the middle of the night at some point, right? To me, right, I'm in and out like because I don't sleep well.
Yeah.
To me, it was like a SWAT raid, right? And there's just the glow from the room where he's like monitoring me, the silhouette, and he's got a mask in his hand, and he's like, "We have to put the mask on, Mr. Landry." And I'm just like, okay, like he could have been there to like, Then I'm doing okay, So he puts it on, and then the next thing I remember is I had a brief dream, and I woke up and it was time to go. That was the first time I had a dream in almost 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Like my body was not going into REM and being able to go into a sleep like that in like 10 years, maybe a little bit longer.
That's crazy.
And so now like I've joined Space Force. I have the mask. God sent, right? I'm telling anybody out there, if you are struggling with sleeping, it is going to affect everything that you do. It changes your mindset. It changes your thought process. I've written stuff down on my phone because I didn't want to forget it. Right. And I'm going to have episodes about it of what I was thinking, the hallucinations I was having. Right. Because that's a real thing too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
right? Sleep deprivation leads to hallucinations, leads to, different thought process, the whole 9 yards.
Mhm.
And I would write this stuff down on my phone. And so I'm going on, I don't know, I just got it earlier this year. So it hasn't even been a year. And
So you're sleeping better.
I'm sleeping better,
Oh,
like way better. I'm down like 25 pounds. Like, and that,
I did. They gave me one of the take-home sleep studies.
oh, I was like full blown Avatar with
Oh.
leads all over my body. Like, short of being floated in a tank of water, right? That was my experience. Leads all over my body.
Yeah, they sent me one, and they're like, the instructions were like, it's like, okay, when you're ready to get into your, like, what's the process when you're getting into your process of going to sleep? Put this stuff on. Put all this stuff on. Like, all right. I'm like, but my process includes like watching a movie.
Right.
They're like, yeah. Once you start that movie, put it on and go through your whole process. Okay. So I get in my recliner in the living room. I'm like, this is my process. In my recliner, everyone's asleep. Kick the feet up and watch the movie. Movie's over. Great. Think I'm ready to go up. Head up. I don't sleep on my back. I sleep on my side. So I wake up in the morning. I do the whole thing so they can record the information. Comes back a week later, and they're like, all right, Mr. Connelly, here's what we found. When you're on your back, you stop breathing 17 times an hour. On my back, I was awake. I'm like, what?
I was in like the 40s.
I was like, what are you talking about?
I was
awake.
Yeah, I was like 42 or 52 times.
That's where I was on my side. But like on my back, I stopped sleeping. And I was like, wait, I was awake for that. I was like, what's that even mean?
It means your body was just it's like a haze, man. Like I tell you, it's like a haze. And it for me, like one of those things is like I couldn't, like I was starting to have back problems, hip problems, all this stuff. So you toss and turn, 7-pinch nerves on my back. You get the sciatica going on, just a freaking hot mess, dude. Right. And really what happened was my wife kicked me in my ass and said, hey, you got to like take care of yourself.
You got to be
right?
a friend of yourself.
You got to be 100% for yourself in order to be 100% and help others.
That's
right.
it.
And, I was going through it, right? Because I was so focused on like, and there's a lot of veterans that, I was there and helping them and everything else. And I wasn't focusing on me at all. Right. And I wasn't doing that self-care. But I tell you, the most important things with the sleep that Rob Sweetman, go guys looking up Rob Sweetman, sleep genius. I connected with him through TikTok. Former Navy SEAL, light, temperature, something else. But all those noise, right? Light, temperature, noise, all that stuff plays a factor into our sleep. We don't realize it, right? So like, yeah, you want to keep the house like warm, right? But everybody's optimal temperature to like fall asleep is different, right? And that plays a factor too into us being able to fall asleep and staying asleep for longer. And this whole, and I didn't realize this whole like, because at times I was operating on 2 hours of sleep, if that sometimes, right, in a 48-hour period.
Oh, boy.
Right. So the length of time that you sleep, everybody's is different. Like some people need 12, some people need 6, some people need 8, right? Everybody's is different. So not getting on that like societal, like, we're growing up, like, gotta get your 8 hours of sleep, right? Not necessarily.
No.
Right. Everybody's rhythm is different.
Yeah, I need about 6 hours of sleep. Do I get 6 hours of sleep? Sometimes.
Do you ever let me ask you this, right? The Mask Brothers over here. Do you ever
Oh no, they gave me a mouthpiece.
Oh, you lucky dude.
It hurts.
Dude, I got the full mask like this, right? If crazy though, it doesn't make a lot of noise at all, right? But I got the full mask like this. And sometimes the Velcro pops off, and all of a sudden, like there's just air shooting up into my eyeballs. Or my daughter, she's younger, she's like, she does martial arts in her sleep. So like she'll, throw an arm like this and she'll grab my hose and like, and all of a sudden it's just like, and I'm like, stop, stop, or like her hand lands like this and it like cuts the hose off, but the mask is still on. So then I'm like, dude, trying like now I'm good. But when I first started that, oh my God, dude, it took a little bit to adjust to. Took a little bit to adjust to. Because I got this, now I do feel like I'm, an avatar, right? I got this hose coming off, but I got the full mask. I feel like I should have a Top Gun,
Right.
flight helmet
That's what I
on.
was just picturing.
Yeah. I want to do an episode just like full CPAP, right? But I tell you this, I joke about it, but it saved my life, right? It truly did.
I don't doubt that. I have my roommate from 29 Palms, actually, sleep apnea. He lost his life to sleep apnea about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
well, so a lot of people, so separate from, the lack of sleep, sleep apnea, insomnia, racing thoughts, all that kind of stuff, right? Like people don't realize, even if you're good in a mindset where like you're not going to harm yourself, stuff, the hypertension, increase your heart attack, right? All this stuff, diabetes, all these diseases. And so I'll tell you this. So this is crazy. So I get into the VA system, do my appointments, they do my blood work, comes back like almost like my liver, or no, my kidneys are shutting down.
Oh,
right. My blood work, they're concerned, right?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, at the same time, I had like 47 doctor's appointments in like a year. The same time,
it's normal.
Yeah, normal,
It's normal stuff.
Normal stuff. Don't worry about it, guys. Everybody goes through it. So I do the sleep test, sleep study. I get my CPAP. They're like 6 months. We're going to do another blood test. So I have my CPAP for 6 months, and on top of it, I came off of midnights and I was working day shift. 6 months later, they do a blood test. Everything's fine. Sleep, not being on night shift. There was a combination of stuff. Yeah. Like, and then all of a sudden, my organs are like functioning properly.
You're living better.
I'm living better.
You're living better.
Right.
That's all it took.
And I just want people to think about that because, that stuff of pushing ourselves, we can do it. I'm just a little bit tired. Let me go grab. I used to, like, especially working midnights, I would have like 3 or 4 monsters, right? I'd have like, I got rid of the coffee and I would do like 3 or 4 monsters just to be able to drive down the road.
Ooh.
Right. And, what was that doing to me, And then on top of it, because I couldn't fall asleep, I was starting to take Advil PM.
Ooh.
Right. So then it became like Advil PM on a daily basis, trying to fall asleep. And it went from like, half of 1 to 1 to 2 to 3. I think one day, the most I did one day was 4 Advil PMs because I hadn't been to bed in like 36 hours, and it was like on a weekend. Like, so that's cool. Right.
Yeah.
Time to spend with the family.
Now you're
time
sleeping.
to like do like for my, no, I couldn't even fall asleep. My body became so immune to it. Right. That I couldn't fall. I would stop taking it for a little bit. So then like take it again. And
I have trazodone that I do that with.
Well, my thing was, and this is like stupid thought process, right? I don't want, VA Medicaid. I don't want prescription stuff. Let me just go grab this Advil PM and just self-dose, right? And then on top of it, what was happening too is like, I can't sleep. Let me grab a beer, right? And let me grab a beer. And that works. That worked for a small amount of time.
Not the right move.
Small amount of time. And then that wasn't working.
Yeah.
Right. So then it was like, what do I do? Right. And I hit that like health crossroad in my life. My
Mhm.
wife's like, this ain't working. I'm like, I know it's not working. You know, I'm like, I don't need the VA. I don't need this. I don't need to go to
I
doctors.
don't need the VA.
I don't need any of this. Right. I was one of those guys. And, you know, I am so grateful that she like gave me that swift kick in my ass. Right. And it was on me
Yeah.
like constantly. But I think it's because I was open about what I was going through. Right. It didn't always come out the right way.
But it came out.
Go back to that, right? Thought it in my head, it came out
but
a
it did
different
come
way.
out, though.
You know, but it was one of those things that communication started to go. You know, I started to open it up of what I was going through, what I was thinking, what I was feeling.
Well, I learned early, before my first deployment in '03. I was talking to my uncle, who was a Vietnam vet. He said, "Yeah, hey, no matter what happens, when you come back, you got to talk to somebody about it.
Yep.
Whether it's the Marines you were out there with or whoever, but you got to talk to somebody about it. You can't just bottle everything up. You got to
Yep.
be open with how you're feeling with it, with things like what you're going through."
Right.
So that was big for me, and with that, and that was 2000. He told me that in 2002, end of like December. I think it was Christmas 2000 or Thanksgiving 2002. He told me that. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crucial, especially you know, and it's all encompassing, right? We
Mhm.
just touched on like literally what a transition is like, stuff to make the transition better, but, but we still don't listen. Right. I think that's our biggest downfall sometimes, just as humans,
Yep.
right? Is we don't want to listen,
Mhm.
right? The information is there sometimes. Somebody says it. It's like, you know, for instance, kids, right? You
Oh,
got kids.
yep.
I got kids. A lot of people got kids. Your kids don't want to hear a damn thing that you say, but when somebody else says it,
Oh, it's the best thing since
they're
sliced
like,
bread.
it like sinks in, right? Because subconsciously what happens is it's just like when we were growing up, we didn't want to listen to our parents.
Mhm.
Parents, they don't know, right? Like, and it doesn't dawn on us till like, you know, we become parents or step parents or whatever, that like, oh crap, like
They knew.
they knew,
Yeah.
right? Like we were little shits.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
we just didn't want to listen,
Yep.
right? So like we do that still, right? And we gotta not do it as much,
That's it.
you
That's it.
know. And it just comes down to listening, and that's where that networking and listening,
Mhm.
right? And being a small business owner, absorbing information, education, you know, that information is education,
That's
right?
it. And for anybody who is looking to get into their own business, definitely use your Apex Accelerator, your local Apex Accelerator. Definitely use them. Definitely reach out for any resource that you would need as a veteran. It's there for you,
Yep.
and people are more than willing to give it to you.
Now, remind everybody again how they can get a hold of you to be able to network.
You can get a hold of me at cmbcircuits.com. We are also on the Facebook and the Instagram. Look for our. I'm actually going to put this on our YouTube channel also, if you
Yep.
don't mind. So yeah, those 3 ways, 4 ways. I just named 4: website, the Instagram, the Facebook, and YouTube. So look for us there.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I appreciate you, man, coming on, and I hope you enjoyed the experience.
I did. This was great.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely want to have you more, you know, on again.
Let's do it.
You know, we can talk about different stuff.
Yeah.
You know, one thing you know, so it hasn't even been 24 hours yet.
Hasn't been 24 hours yet.
Is the mental health when it comes to politics?
I turned the TV off.
Yes. Yes.
I'll tell you today, I usually watch a little bit of news during the day when I'm sitting in the office. You know, I'll keep flipping through the channels. You know, what's this news outlet saying? What's this news outlet saying? I didn't even turn the TV on today. I didn't even turn it on today.
So I'll tell you, one of the perspectives I got was from Lynette Nersbacher, Dr. Lynette Nersbacher, is that It even happens, and getting that perspective from other countries and everything.
Mhm.
And she said she'll go and grab the paper from this party. She'll go grab the paper from this party.
Mhm.
She'll research, on their
Yeah.
website for this and this, right, and form her own opinion,
That's it.
right?
I try to do the same thing.
You have to.
And I use two other outlets I use are Al Jazeera and BBC America.
Yep. And the other thing too is that communication we're talking about.
Yep.
Just because somebody else forms a different opinion than you
It doesn't mean they're wrong.
doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean they're right.
It doesn't mean they're right.
But it's their opinion.
Yeah.
And if you can't accept theirs, but they can accept yours, then you're wrong.
Then you're wrong.
Like that's what basically what it comes down
Yeah.
to. Right? Don't get into that argument. Right?
Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Just leave it alone.
Hopefully, like, next coming weeks, like it just stops. Like it's not interjected into the conversation all the time.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like,
then I can turn the TV back on.
Yeah. But I do think, and I wholeheartedly think, and I feel like a lot of veterans think, because we fought for this country, especially in war zones, boots on ground, and everything else. We're passionate about us just being Americans. Like, let's get back to the basics.
Let's get back to that.
Let's be good human beings.
Yeah. Can we do that?
And be good Americans.
Let's do that.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's start. Like,
yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Start now?
Start now.
Oh, okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. Appreciate it, guys. Anybody who wants to go check out everlastingveteran.com, you can go support Everlasting Veterans Dog Program, get future service dogs out to veterans. These two coming this November 16th at Vets Rock's going to be 11 future service dogs in about a year and a half time frame since I started the program. I appreciate everybody's support so far. I am your host, Ryan Landry. I'm joined in studio with Chris Connelly. Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you.